How's it going, universe? Welcome to another episode of Goes to the Library. I'm your host, Shaun, and with me, as almost always on Goes to the Library, is Big Paul. What's up, Big Paul?
Hey, how you doing, buddy?
So this time, this is kind of a little bit of a change up because I actually recommended us that we read something and talk about it. Today, we're going to be talking about Frank Miller's 1991 comic book, Hard Boiled, artwork by Jeff Darrow. This has been a favorite of mine since I was in my early 20s, I guess is probably when I first came across it. I went through a period of time where I would just randomly buy graphic novels. I would find an author or a writer that I really enjoyed, and I would kind of buy everything I could get my hands on that they had written. This was one of those. So it was one of those things Frank Miller? Cool. I think I probably, around the same time I had read The Dark Knight Returns or Batman Year One, maybe some of his Daredevil stuff at that time. And I was just excited, and it was so cool. And one of the cool things about Frank Miller is that he really does his own things. He's done some big superheroes, but he's also done things like Hard Boiled, 300, the Sin City series, which most people are most familiar with. And I was excited to share this with Big Paul, because if you guys don't know, Big Paul has become kind of like our resident comic book expert, our manga weeb. I mean, this guy's all over the place. Yeah. And I figured this would be something that would be right up Paul's alley. It's a nice, short, violent, but all provocative but also kind of a little bit of thoughtfulness in there, just enough to be able to kind of sink your teeth into and have a little bit of a conversation. So we're going to do that right now. So Big Paul, I know you had never heard of this before, so you have no connection to this whatsoever. Didn't I make you read one of the Sin Cities when we were kids?
Yeah, no, I know Frank Miller through the lens of you.
Yeah.
And when we lived together, you had all those graphic novels, and that's what's so funny when you're like, oh yeah, he's our resident weeb now, our comic book guy, because I used to give you so much shit for that, and then but now
everything.
Now I've come to terms. I've come to terms and appreciated this medium so far. And then also we just recently talked about Keanu Reeves' debut in the comic world with Berserker.
Yep.
And you fired us off on the tail end of us reading and talking about Berserker. And let's give this a go. And holy shit, this was something.
So everybody probably realizes that I like this book quite a bit. So what were your general kind of thoughts? Just what's your elevator review of it?
It's so dense in terms of plot, and then in terms of visual overload is what I would say. Everything is just chock full. The whole experience I would equate to getting punched in the face visually, and then afterwards, then you're when you in real life get punched in the face. After that shock is all, that you feel the lingering pain.
Yeah,
that's what the storyline did to you. And then you start thinking about that because you get punched in the face with the dialogue, and then
the aesthetics, the visceral nature of it,
of this comic, and then you start thinking about it, right? And that's when the pain starts setting in, and you start thinking about what the hell did I just scroll through?
Because it goes by super fast. I mean, it's 120 pages. It was a 3-issue miniseries. It's a pretty short book. And like Paul said, most of the book, which if you read this in the future, Big Paul had to read it digitally. But if you read it, I would definitely suggest going out and trying to get a hard copy of it, because, I mean, the panels, dude. I mean, these things are insane.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just if you want to appreciate the art. Because I think you really hit the nail on the head with your kind of elevator review there. Because that's what it is. It's this quick hit. It goes by super quick. You're almost disorientated. You're I don't really understand that, but it was a really fun ride.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start kind of thinking about it a little bit. Like you said, that lingering, it's kind of lingered. It stays with you a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's something, maybe it's just because I've read it so many times, but did you kind of pick up on any of the, how funny it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
But funny in a very dark sense, right? Because
there's little throwaway gags where he's talking about his wife, and he's she's so as beautiful as the day I met her. I mean, I could just close my eyes and take myself there. I could take it and I could see my wife, but I'm not going to do that right now because I'm driving. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, no, 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 no. It was funny. But it's all kinds of ways, right? And then even though you said it's short, like every frame in that comic, dude, is just so jam packed with
With
every.
information.
Yeah, it, yeah, information.
It's
Yes.
overwhelming because it's actually all of the world building.
Hmm.
Most of the actual like story
Hmm.
is not verbal.
Right.
It's all in the environment. It's
Right.
you just got to look around the world and then really kind of put into context, especially once you get to the end of the book and it's revealed that or what happens to Nixon, or that Nixon, or Carl, Harry, whatever his name is at any given point in the story, is
Right.
that he's a robot. So let me read like the little breakdown here. It says Hardboiled is a 3-issue comic book miniseries written by Frank Miller and drawn by Jeff Darrow. It was published by the American company Dark Horse Comics in 1990 to 1992. It follows the story of Carl Seltz, an insurance investigator who discovers he is also a homicidal cyborg tax collector who happens to be the last hope of an enslaved robot race.
Hmm.
So once you finish the book and you understand like all the beats of the kind of the surface narrative, and then if when you go back and read it again and you put that in context to the world that is represented in the art, it becomes even crazier.
Yes.
It becomes even wilder because it's like the cyberpunk dystopia that has like this Art Deco feel because it's kind of talking about almost like 1950s, setting up kind of suburban 1950s Leave It to Beaver style um, kind of characterizations, but just for the robots, where
Hmm.
all of the humans are clearly living in a cyberpunk like dystopia,
Right.
but the robots are living in suburbs, and they
Right.
all work for these big corporations. It's kind of like corporate wars, um, where like he works for, was it Williford or Welford?
Yeah.
Welford
Well-heard appliances. Yeah. Home
Welford Appliances, which is basically like Walmart or Amazon. That would be like kind of the equivalent to today.
Right.
And they rule the world. They rule everything. And the robots, some of them are waking up and realizing that they're kind of enslaved. And but
Right.
none of this is very explicit. Actually, none of this is very explicit. It's all
No,
kind of in the
all
subtext.
every
It's all
yeah,
in the art.
everything is implied, right? Everything's implied. When you find out, like, because like I said, after the shock and awe of getting punched in the face, you start thinking about, well, what was the story that I just like flipped through, right? And like, really, this technology, these robots, are all of our protagonists, like through this like short comic, are these robots. They're becoming self-aware of what's happening, of their programming, and then the environment, and then what they were programmed to feel. And they kind of break down, like you said, not directly, but in the subtext, this concept of what is it to feel, what is
Yes.
it to feel this or whatnot. So there's a lot to like. There's a lot to unpack when you go through it, right? And
And
that's
especially in the framing, because the
yeah,
framing is directly a critique of like Americana or American consumerism. I mean, I guess you could say capitalism too, but I think it's like more like
yeah,
corporatism a little
yeah,
bit, which is just very like cyberpunk. It's very like dystopian kind of architecture there. Um, but yeah, but that was kind of the most interesting stuff because they live in this. He lives in this kind of weirdly idyllic life, or he thinks he's doing that. Like this is the method of control because the robots or people, I guess the humans who built the robots, kind of think that this is what would make somebody happy and complacent. So they
yeah,
think that with this cyborg, this killer robot, they're like, well, if we keep him kind of happy and complacent, and we give him a wife, and he's got 2 kids, and he's got a dog, and he lives in the suburbs, and he waves goodbye to his wife. They're talking about eating flapjacks and cheeseburgers, and
for breakfast. Yeah.
yeah,
Which, they're not gonna lie, it's pretty banging breakfast. Pretty banging
and
breakfast.
I'm
But
not 100.
you're so like on point though, like like the program that have like this 1950s Leave It to Beaver esque like mindset, but the world that they operate in is very cyberpunk, right? And
Yeah,
there's a lot of like like on those references of that with like like the T-Bird like car model, which was
yes,
literally from the 1950s, right? And this as you go through the pages of this comic, like this is not 1950s. This is not Leave It to Beaver, right? Everything that's going around this world is just freaking ugly. Everyone's um, like indulged, like overindulged in consumerism, and like it's just really bad. But these robots go by through like again, not. explicitly, but like subtly, when he's talking about the main character Nixon through this short comic, going through his day as he's progressing through the his art character, just talk about like, I like regular things. I like the regular. Some people complain about, the monotony of life. Not me. And it's just like, that's a robot. He's going through this. I like, all these basic things. And this was written in 1991, but like this staple or default baseline programming set for this cyborg character is baseline on the 50s, of where everything is cookie cutter and like straightforward,
Yeah.
and then
It's
the
that
rock.
kind of filtered through, I think, Frank Miller's disdain for Reaganism,
Mm.
which is weird
Okay.
because Frank Miller's kind of he's a right wing, he's more of a right wing guy. Maybe that's something that kind of developed more in his later years where it was kind of more out in the open. But
Mm.
he did not like Reagan. He did not like Reagan. You can even go and if you read his probably his most famous work, his most seminal work, The Dark Knight Returns, Reagan's in it. And he's kind of a bad guy. He sends Superman to go kill Batman.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So I think because just if you think about the time period that he wrote this, which is 1990, 1991, right, coming off of the Reagan years, I think there's a little bit of that where you felt like there was an empty shallowness in the sense of what the American dream now meant.
Right.
It didn't mean what it used to mean. And now that these things, these vestiges of this old way of living, this more wholesome lifestyle, are there just to control you,
Right.
and that you don't really matter. I think that's kind of what the subtext is, because I guess they call him, for some reason, they on Wikipedia they single out Carl for some reason, but it's really Nixon. Even the
Hmm.
robots call him Nixon. But this idea that they can constantly change him, and it
Right.
doesn't matter. Like
Right.
he's just whatever they need him to be. And I think that's kind of a commentary on the men of a certain age, of a certain period of time, where they maybe themselves were left to feel like that. It's kind of like, we live in the modern era now where um, the concept of being a man is very different than it was.
Right.
And you're seeing you're seeing kind of almost from a 40,000 foot view of how it is affecting society and culture, that shift, that change, where men are being displaced through technology, which I don't know if that was his intention in this book, but I think you can actually kind of read that into this as well.
Hmm. I think it supports it, right? Because like with the cyborgs, that like their baseline programming is like to be minimalist, to have like simple desires and simple needs, and to carry out a purpose. And when it's juxtaposed with like with their creators, what are their creators, right? So the owner of Wilford Appliances is this big fat slob
Yeah.
that's in
It's
complete.
like Pearl from Blade.
Oh yeah, Girl from Blade, Job of the Hut, like you name it, like it's all there, right? And so like this is like the program efficient, like tool that we've created to carry out these basic things that I should do myself, but I don't. And here's the I am the outcome of being not just the consumer, both the consumer, but in this case with like Wilford, the creator of this. So I am just like this monster of consumerism and like
Mm-hmm.
corporatism, like because you can't even with the first pass of this, like you just feel that like with the initial punch, like this disdain for like all these entities that kind of like drive the world and the markets, right?
Well, especially, yeah, exactly, and especially because it's such an angry book,
Hmm.
even though it's kind of funny, but the anger is there all over it. Like just the way it's drawn, what's going on with the characters, especially once she gets kind of towards the end, where you
Hmm.
have Blanche trying to wake Nixon up, kind of, and
Hmm.
it gets kind of weird and dark. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. So like let's break that down like a little bit, right? So these like cyborgs coming in to this universe as it's like illustrated to us, and there there is an awakening with like within the program, and then um but what is like so ironic, the only way that they can connect is like through like human emotions, right? And
Yeah.
like there's like so like Blanche, the character you're referring to, is like the exterior is poses like an old woman, and then there's this like a brutal looking scene like after like Nixon and Blanche like fight. Then when they get into a safe space, she's like, "Okay, we can stop fighting." And then she rips off like all the flesh on her into where she's like a slick looking like robot type, and then just trying to be like, "You're not Nixon. Everything you know, like I'm trying to wake you up. Everything you know is a lie and whatnot.
Yeah.
Let me get out of it." And what does she try to do to wake him up?
Have sex with him.
She makes it like a sexual like
Because
advance.
that's all that robot knows how to do.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right, right. We're next on programs with that. So it's just like it's a weird. Like, do you think there's it
But
just?
also,
Oh, go for it.
no, I was going to say, because I mean, just getting on the back of what you just said, it's that, and the one thing that makes that whole sequence, that the whole end of the book, is that it's Nixon's level of denial, and then also that he is kind of happy to be brainwashed.
It- but that's like what and you got me there faster than where at the rate I was going there. But like the basic level problem, like here's what we programmed into you to instill into you, like your basic needs to function, to serve a purpose, right? And then when that gets taken away from you or is threatened, then you go haywire and berserk. So it's like in one way, it's just like comics just saying like get so caught up into consumerism with technology and gluttony that like the basic things that you need, like if you take that away, you become Nixon. You become like basically a kill machine. A monster goes berserk. Like even with like all this advanced technology advancements to make this like AI like cyborg
Sure.
function, if you program with them like with the essentials of life, Nixon was programmed to believe that he has a family and a steady job and that he has a purpose to support that. If you threaten that and take it away, look what happened in the case of Nixon in Hard Boiled, right?
Yeah.
So is it a comment like
Are
uh,
these are these
like
guardrails? Do the guardrails
am
serve a
I
purpose for
right?
your happiness?
Am I like
Yeah.
digging, like projecting too much into this that like you don't need everything out in the world to make you into this like Clinton slug, and there's like some basic facts of life, some basic essentials that's all you really need, and if that's taken away, then whether it's fake or not, that's what's important, and then you go literally haywire and like will go on the killing spree to protect what you believe that you have, like your bare
Yeah.
essential like life.
Yeah. Because
Even
essentially,
though it's a cyborg, it was made, but that's what it
yeah,
believes it was life.
he's a corporate assassin,
Mhm.
and he, like you said, he needs those things to keep being a corporate assassin
Right,
because it justifies it.
right,
Because he does what he has to do to get home, right? Or at least that's what the programming. That's what they want him to feel like he is indebted to something, or he has a connection to something.
right. No, he's a corporate assassin, but like the programming that they gave him was to make him believe that he's this, and so
No,
like
I know, but he believes that he's that to facilitate like what he actually does, and what he, because he has to come to, he knows. I mean, in some level, he knows what he's doing. I mean, like the whole book is full of these, especially the opening when he's just like in the middle, the mise en scene when he's just like at the end of a case,
yeah,
and he's all fucked up, and he's just like holding his gun out, and he's got glass and shit all coming out of him, and barbed
fingers
wire crap.
broken 7 different ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, God. It's just
But
brutal,
I
brutal
mean, and
illustration.
I also think it's a commentary on feeling like a cog in a machine, like a work slave, like you're married to your job
Hmm.
and you can't get off of it.
Right, right,
You know,
yeah.
like it's his entire life is just revolves around like, hey, honey, how's it going? All right, see you later. Be home for dinner. Goes
Hmm.
out, has the most wild, fun adventures ever, and then comes back home and his creepy little robot kids, you know,
Yeah,
help him chill out, which
yep.
is a legit like a kind of like disturbing moment. The first time he comes home, that first night after being all fucked up, and they put him back together and they bring him back home, and they've given him a new identity and all this stuff, and his wife is like wants to have sex with him, and then his kids are there, they're watching. It's very
Yeah.
weird. It's very weird. And then
And
also like, oh, you're having bad dreams, Dad. I bet it's because of Mom's meatloaf.
pun intended.
Hey
Pun
now, hey
intended.
now.
But yeah, but it's just like, even though I guess I don't know, maybe I'm trying to like belabor this point too much, but just like even the program like is the commentary that if you have the bare essentials of life, if you have like what comprises a family instilled you, and you believe it, whether it's artificially or not, and it's threatened, like that's what's taken away. So you gotta like focus like on what's important, and
Well,
no
it's your
matter the
purpose. It's just
constructs that like you're put into or the scenarios that you're put into that like jeopardizes that, like you will literally like kill for that. For
yes. Well, that's what.
like they're just like trying to pull out like that's like I don't know. Maybe at the end of the day, Hard Boiled is just a wholesome story about family
Yeah,
values.
about family values and about getting back to your kids.
Mm-hmm.
I know, but I think that's kind of imperative to the character and also the commentary of it. I think you have it essentially right. That like it's
Well, thank you. Good night,
that
Zuba.
yeah, but no, but it's they even kind of I think if I'm not mistaken, they mention in the book is like he needs purpose.
Mm-hmm.
A creature without purpose is useless.
Mm-hmm.
So they divine these. They give him the family. They give him this idyllic life
Mm-hmm.
to give him that purpose. So, like you said, when he goes out and does what he has to do, he's always going to try to get back there.
Right.
He's going to survive. He's going to get back
Mm-hmm.
somehow. Even at the end of the book, when he's like literally just a torso and and his head's like snapped off, and he's like, "Just put me back in. I
Yeah.
don't care. Just put me fucking back in." And I love that. It's a great image too.
Yeah.
Let me see, because I think isn't he like pointing the gun
Yeah.
at the head and he's like hanging there? It's awesome.
Yeah,
There it
like
is.
when yeah, Wilford catches him back in, and he's like pleading with him, like, "Okay, just put me back in. Let's reset. Let's reset."
And
So,
also, we haven't touched on. So there's somebody inside Williford, basically trying to do a coup, trying to do it January 6th on Williford. It's Barbara. Barbara's the one that's woken up. Barbara's the one that's kind of their inside robot, if you will,
hmm
and is the one that's trying to get Nixon for whatever reason it is. Nixon is just very important to their revolution,
right.
and I think it is because of actually what they have done to him. Or when I say him, robot, when they've actually what the programming and the fact that he does feel like he has purpose, he feels like he matters,
hmm
feels like his family matters, and that's essential to him because he'll do what it takes. So they have to try to get him to have affection for them, for their
Yes.
own race, which goes back to the kind of scene in the junkyard with Blanche where she tries to come on to him. That's the way she's going to try to convince him to indebt herself to him in some way.
Right. Right.
Um, it kind of goes on along with like a form of programming.
hmm So, like when this comic opens off, we're coming at the tail end of a batshit crazy like car chase and just like
It's
full on
awesome. It's so
battle, right?
cool.
It's just so fucking brutal. And then like even that in part of like the world building, like one of the frames that really stood out to me was he goes into this room and it's just like this he busts into this room through a car, chasing out following through his target, and then it's like an arena of debauchery, right? You see like what appears to be like this boxing ring, and it's just like people fucking, and then in between people fucking, there's people like with a chainsaw fucking
Yeah.
chopping people in half. Like it's just like what is happening here? Like this whole universe is absolutely disgusting and equally fucking bonkers.
Yeah.
Equally fucking bonkers. But the beginning part of the series where he gets completely like deconstructed and like busted, and they gets brought back to Wilford Appliances so they can reassemble, the $6 million man. And one of the another frame that really stuck out to me was just like really fucking eerie, really guttural, just
I know
like
exactly what you're
all
talking
kinds of
about.
feels, right? Where they're reconstructing them and they got this tube there, and there's like
Babies
infants in there,
and
and
candy
then they have
bars.
like candy bars, like the beer, like Snickers and like Baby Ruth, although slightly changed due to the copyright laws or whatever, blah blah, which is another like you could argue commentary on like
Yeah.
yeah, like the corporate laws, right? So, like, what feels a person? If we need to make like a sentient being to carry out our bidding, what do we need to instill in them? But and we don't know all the technology that comprises this, but we know at the beginning that it's extracted from infants and junk food to feel into
It's
this, right?
he's literally created by like in some ways I think it's supposed to be like the American dream.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
like
dude.
cuz consumerism, you know, whether we like it or not is part of that.
Yeah,
The American dream is that we have access to things like this. We
right.
can go to a gas station and buy a candy bar. Like
Hmm.
we can do stuff like that in America, and that was, you know, part of what that was sold to, especially to soldiers post World War II.
Yeah.
When they came home, they had to feel like that they what they had done, what they had lived through was worth it.
Hmm.
So that's kind of we get the, you know, the white picket fences and the houses and the Leave It to Beaver vibes is to basically to try to get to program into people that their sacrifices were worth it.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think in some ways that's what that character is represents. Are his sacrifices worth it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, not in the literal sense, but in the ideologic sense that if you have the core essence of like survival and like and purpose, being the family, yeah, you will do all that crazy shit. You will fight till you are literally just a bloody pulp just to go back to that, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
plead to your maker, in this case, Wilford Appliances, just send me back. Just send me
Dude,
back.
it's like I could because like you know being like super into movies and stuff. I hear that in my head. I can see the scene and I hear his voice like all garbled, like it's awesome.
Oh,
I fantasize about this being a movie a lot, just so everybody knows.
did this almost become a movie?
It did. They actually all the way going back to about 2001, so that was 10 years after it came out. Originally, Warner Brothers was in negotiations with David Fincher and Nicolas Cage. And I'm telling,
Ooh.
dude, I'd kill somebody for this.
Oh my God.
I'd put him
Nick
in the
Cage
ground.
with Nixon? Wow.
Yeah, dude, Nick Cage would be, especially back then, would have been the perfect Nixon.
But yeah, dude, you like
Perfect.
think of like Bad Lieutenant vibes, right?
Oh
Into
yeah,
holy shit.
but you
Holy
know, because he
shit.
just has a knack. Because he would do a corny 1950s guy
Yeah.
and do all while doing all the wild shit, and he would do it. He would commit to it. There would
Hmm.
be no
No,
winking.
he
There
would
wouldn't be any of that
understand.
shit.
He would understand the assignment, man. Holy.
Exactly. It's like when he would did like a Kick Ass, right? Like so
Yeah.
he does Kick Ass and he's Big Daddy, he's a Batman ripoff, and he does an Adam West impression. I mean, that was his idea. But he commits to it. It's not a joke. It's like it makes you laugh if you're aware of what he's doing, but
Mhm.
from his standpoint as a performer, he's not winking at you, being like, "Isn't this funny that I'm doing an Adam West impression?"
Mhm.
Like he doesn't do that, and that's kind of what's special about Nicolas Cage as an actor. Even when he's slumming it in those direct-to-video movies that he was doing, trying to pay off his taxes, he took those opportunities to kind of be wild. Like go watch some of those movies. Like he always is on. Like he doesn't phone it in.
Mhm.
Like he's in a movie with like where he's like in the jungle like hunting a tiger that was made for $1 million or made for 7 million. 5 million got paid to him, kind of
Right.
like the Bruce Willis used to do. Except he would actually be in the entire movie, not just a couple scenes. But there's some really fun stuff out there, like weirdo Nick Cage stuff that would have been would makes me think that I think he'd be very good in something like this. I don't. Maybe he's probably too old now, but I'd still give him a go because the last time they talked about movies about this at all was Tom Hiddleston to star and Ben Wheatley to direct. Ben Wheatley. I don't know if you've ever seen a Ben Wheatley movie. You ever see Free Fire
Nope.
or Kill List?
No.
Okay,
No, I have not.
well, he's pretty good. He makes kind of intense genre movies. He's done a few other things.
Okay.
But actually, when I read that, I was like, oh, he wouldn't have been a bad choice. It would have been very different than if like Fincher had done it, because
Right.
Fincher would have been like super
Wait, just think about
stylized
the
and
Fincher aesthetic to this world. Like that would have been
sick.
definitely copacetic.
You know, I'd even wouldn't mind even if Zack Snyder took a crack at this. If Zach's just going off of 300, especially, and he has a real reverence for Miller. He actually was on Joe Rogan like this
He
past
was,
week,
yeah.
and it was a fun episode because he's just him and Joe Rogan were just like, it was like listening to two bros talk,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
I saw the chat thing and I got distracted.
Yeah. No, yeah, he was, because I didn't know about that Snyder on Rogan. He was big into bodybuilding and
Yeah.
building. And I was
I
like,
mean,
oh,
he cucks out at some point in there when he's just like, "Oh yeah, I love the Barbie movie." It's like, okay, Zach, they like took a crack at you. Just be offended. It's okay. They made a shitty crack at him, like, and it was just like lame. And he was just like, "Whoa, this is cool, right?" I'm like, Zach, what do you like? Just stop.
yeah.
Warner Brothers allowed her
That's
Greta
when you
Gerwig
pull.
to make
That's
a
when you
crack at
pull
you because
Russell
they.
Crowe. That's when you pull Russell Crowe. Like when somebody confronted him in an interview, be like, oh, "What do you think about South Park taking a go at you?" And he's just like, "Hey, you know what? They're comedians. They're funny. I wish them Godspeed," and then move on. So
Mhm.
you don't need
Don't
to. You
don't
fucking
endorse it.
right.
Well, because he
Yeah.
endorsed it, but because well, just to be a little, I don't have any proof of this, but WB was not happy with Zack Snyder after the Snyder cut. They weren't. Basically, a bunch of bots and fans gaslit WB into thinking that would be a very successful thing, and they gave him another almost $100 million to finish it, and it wasn't that big. It's people that wanted to see it really like it, and I liked it, but it just wasn't a big moneymaker. So that's why they allowed Greta Gerwig to make a crack at his expense. It's like all this meta stuff, and he didn't pick up on that. I'm like, come on, Zach, come on, buddy. But yeah, if he would be a decent director for this based off of his work on like something like 300, because 300 so slavishly recreates the comic book that I think if Zack Snyder was just given this and just tried to do the comic book just straight up, I think it would be might be cool, might be pretty good.
Yeah. No, it would be. It would be, but I can't get Nick Cage and David Fincher out of my mind now.
I know, but that ship sailed. It's like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It's such a bummer because like I'm thinking of like Nick Cage, like what would it have been? What's that like Indiana Jones National Treasure.
Mm-hmm.
National Treasure age Nick Cage doing this
Yeah,
would be pretty rad. Be pretty rad.
Well, no, he just did that fucking vampire thing, right? So,
Renfield. Renfield's not a good movie, but like Nicolas Cage was very entertaining in it because he does a Bela Lugosi impression basically from like the old Dracula movies.
right, and he could do a good Leave It to Beaver style Nixon in Hard Boiled. You know, I'd still be about it. I'd still be about it.
I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Do we know like what's the last thing Fincher did?
Oh, well, it was in one of my top films of 2023. The Killer.
The Killer, right?
Yeah, The Killer with what's his name, Michael Fassbender.
So
it's a Netflix movie. That's why nobody fucking talks about it because it just gets buried there. It's really good.
Well,
it's
dude,
really
Netflix
good.
has things like Feed Phil, right? And so why are you going to watch The Killer when you have holy shit 7 episodes of Feed Phil? So I mean that's on them. That's on them.
Listen, well, that's like Netflix is not good for like movies. They're good for trash TV. That's all anybody ever talks about that comes out is their television stuff, their series. Movies, not so much. Movies kind of come and go. They just kind of die. Like, I mean, Netflix.
Are movies dead, John? Are movies dead?
Listen,
Kinda
is
like
wokeness killing movies?
No, like seriously, kind of like how rock and roll is dead.
It feels a little bit like that sometimes.
Well, because like there hasn't been like a good rock band since the late '90s, right? We've done that. We've talked about that like in previous episodes.
I mean, there's I mean, in terms of like a big successful band, no.
No, big. Yeah, I should qualify that like a big successful band, like house name band. Like, no, there hasn't been one since the late
yeah, that's
90s.
like kind of edgy and cool, but also mainstream. Yeah.
But taking this conversation to like movies, like are movies dead? Are we just now? Is it just now like?
Well, theatrical exhibition, I think, is going the way of boutique stuff, where it's going to be like same thing's happening to physical media. Lots of stores, lots of companies, they're going to stop making Blu-rays. They're going to stop selling Blu-rays in a lot of the big box stores. Like Best Buy is done. They're out. They liquidated their shit. They're out. They're not selling movies anymore.
Wow.
They've been pulling that back for years. So everything is becoming kind of boutique for like people like me, where they're like, "Oh, well, I know you'll pay $40 for this." Like, oh no, you will. I know you will because you're sick and you have a problem. And like, oh yeah, you'll pay $30 to go see a movie in a theater. Of course you will. And that's kind of the way it's going. It seems like, unless maybe things will rebound. Dune 2 is doing well, and that is a big spectacle movie.
I gotta see that.
And that is something like almost you have to, if you don't see it in a theater, I know this is cliche, it will be like you almost didn't really see the movie. Because the experience, like the sound, the size of the picture, like especially for something like that, is so important to the experience.
Right.
Because you got to, if you just think of it, it's like big sci-fi out in a desert, just full of like gorgeous shots of like the desert and giant worms and all sorts of crazy shit. And
right.
It's awesome. It's awesome. I feel like a loser because I'm like, well, because everybody likes it, but I'm like, I don't care, dude. It's the first time I've seen something like worth my fucking time. Like I actually paid money and went to the theater where I didn't feel disappointed. There was no qualifiers. I didn't have to make excuses. I didn't do anything. I was just like, I came out of the theater. I was just, oh my fucking God. If I could turn around and watch that again right now, I would.
Yeah. I gotta check that out.
I know. I'm like, I hate talking to people about it because I'm gonna ruin it because I'm gonna oversell it and then you're gonna be like, it was fine. But like,
no, I'll call you up, tomorrow afternoon after I watch it and be like, gay.
The way I have explained it to people, I don't know if I said it to you, but like it's the first time I felt this way since The Matrix.
Wow.
Like where you're like, oh, things are different now. Like we've fundamentally changed how we're doing something now. And Dune 2 was our prince, delivered it to us. Yeah, dude, I liked it so much. I felt like, because I read the first Dune years ago before part 1 came out in anticipation, and I thought it was fine. I was like, I've read too many stuff that actually ripped Dune off. So Dune felt overly familiar and kind of boring. But dude, I enjoyed it so much in movie form, and then I enjoyed it so much I came home and I am actually reading the other Dune books right now.
No kidding.
Because I was just like, I was so locked in. And you know what? I'll have to say this for everybody out there. The second Dune book has been more interesting than the first one. So
there you go.
I've enjoyed it more. But it could be just because I can envision it better, maybe, because I watched the movie. So like I'm putting all of those visual elements, I'm putting those actors, aligning them with the characters. So I kind of have like a sense of the world in a way that I maybe didn't before. And it just, I don't know, really worked for me. And I would love it one day if they made a hard boiled so I could come here and evangelize for it and I could say the same thing again.
That would be something. And I'm still on board for Fincher and Nick Cage, man. Make it happen. Make it happen.
Make it happen. Just make it happen. Well, Fincher's like, he works with Netflix almost exclusively now. They actually have a pretty good relationship. That does, and apparently this asshole, now he's talking about doing Manhunter season 3 again. But he's not going to. That's the thing. He's like, well, maybe when I get around to it.
David Fincher.
Season 2 ends on a giant cliffhanger.
It had the his name was Robert Paulson, that guy. Yeah.
Oh, fucking well, that's Fight Club.
Yeah, I know, but that actor that says that line in Fight Club.
Is it Jared Leto?
No, not Leto. The guy that says his name was Robert Paulson.
Oh, yes, I know who you're talking about. The actor. Yes,
yeah.
I got you. Yeah, that guy is actually really great in that. He's really good in a lot of things he's in. Actually, he was in a movie I ended up quite enjoying was The Iron Claw.
Okay.
The one with Zac Efron about the wrestlers. It's like a true story.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Actually, you'd probably really like that one. Just bring something to wipe the tears away.
Well, I am a meathead, and I like meathead things. So.
Well, it's a meathead thing for sensitive meatheads.
Oh, I am a sensitive. Well, dude, this is like a triple whammy, dude. Holy fuck!
It's like a story about like family and brothers, specifically about brothers. I found it very touching. My review is like, I laughed, I cried, I called my brother. That's what I. That's what it did. Um, but yeah,
What's it called again?
the Iron Claw.
The Iron Claw, and that's on Netflix.
No, I don't. Or it could be. I don't know. It
Okay.
came out like this past Christmas. I think it just came out on Blu-ray or something.
All
It'll
right.
be on a streamer at some
That's one
point.
that has the actor that was in that
The High School
Shameless
Musical.
series with William H Macy, and then he was on The Bear, and then
Yes, yes, that
yeah,
guy's
that
in
guy.
it.
Yeah,
He's really good.
apparently he gained like 40 pounds of muscle or some shit like that.
No, dude, they did it. They committed. They really committed to
Get it
that.
a bit. Yeah.
Dude, like Zac Efron should have won an award for that. Like he should have been at least nominated.
No kidding. Wow.
Like, dude, it's the best. It's like that's the best thing he will probably ever do. And it was just one of these things, the perfect alignment of script, director, and actor. Like it might be something that you can't recreate with Zac Efron because that guy's got a ceiling.
Oh
It's
fuck
not,
you! You never watched Baywatch. So
I have watched Baywatch actually. I did actually. There was a time in my life, like when I was a young man and I had a lot of free time and I was frivolous with it. I would watch like everything.
mm.
Now I'm not like that. I'm like no.
Not at all.
I was like because we were now that we're doing goes to the movies live everybody every other Thursday.
Yeah.
We're talking about more contemporary stuff. So I'm watching more contemporary things just to kind of be more relevant.
Right.
And so I find myself watching more new stuff, and a lot of it's not good. It's not good.
Mm.
A lot of
Well,
shit out
that's
there,
what
dude.
what started this whole tangent, right? I'm like, our movie's dead. Yeah, our movie's dead, just like rock and roll's dead. But yeah,
Well, it doesn't have the cultural place that it did 20 years ago. I mean,
yeah.
when we were kids, is it even a thing anymore that teenagers just go to the movies on the weekends and go see whatever?
No, dude. Speaking as a guy that has a teenager, like they just fucking game, man. They just
Yeah,
game
the game now.
the game, and then they Crunchyroll. So
I mean, because you and I, when we were kids,
that
we
was the
went to the
thing.
movies
That was
all
the
the
thing to
time.
do. That was the
Our
thing to do.
parents dropped us off at the theater all the time. Sometimes got to talk my mom into buying us tickets.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
man. That was those were golden years. But yeah, man. But hard boiled, man. Like I can't. It is an experience, even if you're not a comic book person or whatnot. It just if this could be your first comic, holy shit! What a ride!
you'll
Like
be
that,
so disappointed by the other comic books you read.
right, right. But like this would be like some because like we said the opening of this, like we just finished the 3 volumes of Berserker, which was lauded as being an ultra violent comic, and not for nothing, really rad
Oh,
illustrations.
the art is
Yeah,
gorgeous in
like
that book. Yeah.
just really cool. But like this too, it just had this some art is like timeless. You don't know it could have been made whenever, if it's good, it's good. But there's like this intentional aesthetic where I knew it was time, right? And I know anything about it. You sent me the comic online. I didn't look. I went into this completely
Yeah,
cold.
you had no
It's like
idea at
here
all what it is.
it was. I know the name Frank Miller because of 300 and yada yada yada, but I had no idea what this was about, and it's just like it was just crazy. The themes are timeless. When you watch this too, like you kind of get I can't even say that like the art is old or like antiquated, right? It was made in 1991, but like
Well, the
who
art
who could tell? Like who could tell?
no, you
Because
couldn't. Well, because it's so stylized,
it's so stylized and it's so cohesive to the theme. Like everything was like
purposeful.
for the show. It was for they just everything was committed to the bit, and it was just such a jam packed fucking crazy experience. To be honest, like I read it um at the time of tonight, like a week ago, and I went through it again today, and like I'm still unpacking it, and it was only 120 pages.
No, and it's something
No,
it's
like
worth revisiting over and
yeah,
over and over again because it is so short and it's so easy to read that
yeah,
it's actually kind of lends itself to that. It
yeah,
lends itself because it's not dense in the way that you're like, oh shit, I'd really like to read Hard Boiled again, but fuck, that thing's
yeah.
long. It's not like that at all. And I would be remiss if we don't talk about Jeff Darrow's art. You just gave your little soliloquy about it, but my god, dude, the level of detail,
Dude.
how the meticulous nature. I mean, I'm gonna cut it in, but I'm just gonna show it here. But dude, imagine drawing that.
Yeah.
Like that is a billion little tiny things.
Mm-hmm.
And then whenever you see a car flipped upside down and you see all the guts of the car, that so like he drew all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's fucking crazy. All the
It is.
bricks, all the carnage. Like
Mm-hmm.
my
Yeah.
God, I can understand why it took them 2 years to get out 3 issues.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No. Labor of love, man. Absolutely.
And actually, this was so well, I mentioned the Matrix earlier. The Wachowskis used Jeff Darrow to do some concept art
No kidding.
because they thought Hard Boiled was so cool.
Yeah. Wow.
And actually, if you look at the concept art, you look up Jeff Darrow's concept art, you're like, oh, it's very recognizable, actually, as from Hard Boiled. You can just see it because he has that attention to detail,
Right.
and he likes getting into the nitty gritty and all the little wires and connections and the things that actually make it feel like tangible and give it so that, like you had said, like how purposeful everything is, the verisimilitude of the art and the world and the story and the themes. Like it's so, like you said, it's impactful. Like you don't forget it. Even
Yeah.
if you were to forget like the details of the plot or whatever, then you might, we both read and watch a lot of stuff. There's only so much hard drive space in the brain, but those pictures, like you'll at least remember some of those images. Like
There are
it is.
visuals in this short comic that you will never unsee.
Yes.
You will never unsee. When you go through this, it is an experience. When you go through this, uh, there, oh my God, it's just like I said at the top of the recording. It's a punch in the face, and it will linger. And anyone that's ever gotten like punched in the face in real life, well, remember the first time they got punched in the face. Like it's that impactful. It's just wham bam, thank you, man, and then you stop, and then you linger through that experience after you finish through it. Like dude, this was such a fucking rad experience, man, and I'm really happy that you sent it to me, man, because this is something. And like he said too, it will ruin other comics that I'll read too, because I'll expect something for this. I'm going to expect something, and I'm not going to get it because
Yeah.
there's only one Hard Boiled and there's only one Frank Miller. So
Well, he's got some other really cool ones that are just kind of like this, like its own unique one-off type thing. Like he did one called Ronin, that's really good.
yeah,
300, of course. Like 300 is a really gorgeous book. And that's what I really like about a lot of Frank Miller's stuff is so much of it is utility driven. Like everything has a purpose. Like he doesn't waste time with dialogue. He doesn't waste time with any of that kind of shit. Everything's kind of brutal and to the point. And it's really hard to mistake what he's getting at, in my opinion. A lot of the times in the way he writes, maybe not so much in Hard Boiled, because that's probably the most like
hard to mistake where he's getting that, right? Because it is layered and there is a lot to unpack. He just doesn't waste time, and that's what I think is really driving my sentiments towards like the punch in the face. Like,
well, that's because like a lot of it feels like it could go over your head because of how utility driven it is sometimes.
it will go over your head the first couple.
If you're not paying attention to it, like you will miss what the book is about. And it's very easy to do because it's like we had said kind of at the beginning, it's very easy to get overwhelmed by the book's kind of vibe and style and the artwork and the fun it's having. It's also having a little fun. It's very angry. I mean, I think anything that has constant like dismemberment and cars, like the car fetish stuff in this is crazy. And like all of the damage and the crashing of the cars and into the buildings, and like it's just a wild time. It's just wild. And I'm serious. You know what? Maybe somebody should make like a cartoon movie of it. Maybe we shouldn't even go live action. Then we could definitely get Nick Cage. Okay?
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Get Fincher, get him with some of those Love, Robots and Death guys. Because he does that Netflix, the anthology series, which is generally pretty entertaining.
Always goes back to Netflix, let me tell you.
Netflix is actually the Williford appliances of our regular of our story, of our Hard Boiled
Netflix
story.
actually feels a lot of the subtext and themes of Hard Boiled.
Yeah. This is all about Netflix, actually, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just awesome. It's like it's really because we outlined, we talked about what it's about. It's really something, though. Honestly, you have to experience it for yourself. So if you've never read it, even though we've talked about it, if you've gotten this far and you've listened to everything where we kind of ostensibly spoil it, for the lack of a better way to put it, it needs to be experienced. It needs to be read. I would suggest, if you could, try to find yourself, if you can get this for like $15 or whatever, I would. It's worth the money. Like if they put out like a super like hardcover cool version of this, I would buy it.
Me too.
Because it's just like, it is a conversation piece, if anything else.
Exactly. And again, to a friend, family member, something that hasn't read a comic book or whatnot, like what a great introduction. What a great introduction. It'll ruin everything else, but what a great introduction to this medium
Yeah.
and just storytelling. Because like in this stage of life, I'm like really enjoying like more recreational reading, man, and like with some graphic novels and some of these comics, man, that I've been like consuming lately.
I know
It's just
you
really
get
a
the
rich experience, man.
you get
So
the benefit of like going back through like a golden age of these kinds of adult comics, which was like the 80s and 90s.
yeah,
I mean, there's tons of cool stuff. Even the Batman stuff. Even I know you're not like a big superhero person,
no,
but I know you are like generally are okay with Batman. Like his Batman books are fucking rad.
yeah,
Like they are it will forever change how you feel about Batman, because
hmm
you're gonna want to be like, no, that's my Batman. That's how Batman is.
hmm
Like it's so,
this is the standard.
yeah, it completely like, and I love, and Frank Miller, because he's been interviewed about it 1,000 times, and he was like, well, what was your inspiration for writing like the Dark Knight Returns and stuff? He's like, I just wanted to give Batman his balls back. He's such a pussy. Like he's over there like I don't know, in tights and stuff. Like no,
Mhm.
he's gonna bust skulls. Like imagine if Batman was really there.
No,
Imagine getting punched in the face by Batman.
hmm
Like,
yeah, no, no. He needs the grit of the Punisher, and then and just 10 times
dude,
the
it well,
psychological trauma.
you don't know the story of Dark Knight Returns, but Batman's been in retirement for a bunch of years,
Hmm
and the city of Gotham has just fallen into chaos. Essentially, the punks have taken over, the elements are taken over, and he comes out like a fascist. He's like, nope, no more conversation, no more anything. I'm just gonna fucking stop you.
Judge Dredd, baby.
Kind
Judge.
of, yeah.
We need a Judge Dredd.
That'd be a fun one. You've seen the Carl Urban Judge Dredd
Oh
movie?
yeah, 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 yeah.
That'd be a fun one to talk about.
No, I'm just saying in real life, we need a Judge Dredd right now.
Well, we're gonna get one
The
pretty
time for all
soon.
this nonsense is
His
done.
name is Donald J. Trump.
Ta-da!
Actually, it's gonna be Don, or maybe it'll be Baron Trump. 8 foot tall, freak.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, yeah, yeah. Well, like when his dad gets assassinated, and then
dude, that's what
out to
that.
the arc,
That's
and
how he becomes Batman. He's already
yeah,
rich.
yeah.
I'm telling you,
Mm-hmm.
that's what's gonna
Limited
happen.
amount of resources.
It's gonna be crazy when Don Jr. becomes Two Face, though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He'll be yeah.
Who would Eric Trump
It's in
be?
development. It's in development. Like the stories happen before our eyes. Mark this, Box Nation.
Yeah,
It's gonna happen.
Laura Trump as the Joker. Eric Trump as, we're gonna make him the Butler.
Uh,
Gonna make him the Butler. I don't know what he's good for, so I don't really know much about Eric Trump. So
no, but I was going to go to safe, but it'd be Harley Quinn. Placeholder.
Placeholder. He can be Harley Quinn, exactly, and we're we're very progressive. I mean, honestly, like this is the kind of thing that will get you uncanceled. Okay, you'll be in the halls of Valhalla. You'll be Nancy Pelosi. You'll be reading your comic book, saying they're so right.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be great. Joe Biden next State of the Union. He's just going to read from this comic book,
Absolutely. Yeah, he will.
and then he's going to get to the last page and realize he's the villain in issue 2.
Yep.
Dark Brandon.
Yeah. And then right his ways. Undo all the wrongs.
Yeah. So, anyways, everybody, check out Hard Boiled if you never have, and if you have and you're a super fan, go read it again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, these things you don't understand, the things we don't understand about it. I've
Yeah.
been reading this book for 15 years.
Yeah. Or just comment all the things that we didn't comment on, you know? Tell us what we missed, how we botched it, you know?
Yeah, tell us
I
how we
will
botched
I
it.
will get a burner account and make fun of your mom. You know, maybe that'll happen, I don't know.
I don't.
Probably.
It could happen.
Probably.
Sometimes the impulse is there, and then you think about the effort of doing that. And you're like, well, it was a fun thought. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Big Paul, for indulging me and checking out this book. I thought you would like it, and
I
I
did.
enjoyed our conversation. Like Paul said, like there's nobody else to talk to about this kind of stuff, so we kind of have to make each other do it. You know, because we could I try to talk to my wife about stuff like this. And my wife's kind of a hipster nerdish herself, but her eyes just glaze over. I'm like, what are you, a serious person?
Yeah.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Anyways, have a good day, a good night, the best one ever, and we'll see you next time on ZooBox.